Ultimates are the most impactful individual thing in Valorant, period, and as such, you need to know what are the strongest and weakest ultimates in the entire game in this Ultimates Valorant tier list. Now, these ultimates are going to be placed based on a number of different things: their overall flexibility or the variety of situations that they're good in, the power level objectively of these ultimates, how reliable are they at doing anything in a given round, and last up would be strategy driver, because some of these ultimates can dictate an entire strategy for a round, meaning they're the win condition and they are definitely top tier. But to guide you along, helping you climb the ranks and to improve fast, there's skill caps. We take the highest priority skills to climb ranks fast, such as aiming, and then break it down into a step-by-step course that's easy to understand. You not only learn the basics like crosshair placement and mastering movement, but more advanced concepts like getting multi-kills and repositioning. Now, these courses have been getting 5-star ratings from users just like you, raving about how helpful they are. And if you're looking for something more personal instead, we offer our one-on-one coaching that you're gonna love in the SkillCapped Discord. All this is backed by a rank improvement guarantee, so if you don't rank up, you don't pay. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description right now and get the rank you've always deserved right now down below. Now, first off, we got to talk about D tier ultimates, and right off the bat, we got to talk about Empress on Reyna. Now, I know you can sometimes pop off really hard with this ultimate, but how many times have you popped your ultimate or one of your teammates? Yeah, one of your teammates popped Empress and died immediately. This ultimate is oftentimes a mixed bag, where sometimes the way to get the most value on this ultimate is to use it in a situation that is just unwinnable, and using ultimates or investing ultimates in unwinnable situations on the chance that you clutch is not a very reliable source of value. Now, right away, we move up to the C tier, and these are ultimates that are legitimately good, but they do have situations where they sometimes just don't work, or there's some downside to them sometimes. First off is From the Shadows from Omen. Now, generally you could use this to get some information, and sometimes you can use it to teleport into some weird location where you can get some value, but for the most part, the best value source out of From the Shadows is simply teleporting to another site and planting when you know that there's no one there, right? So like you're in a fight, 2 people are there, you're fighting, people are getting traded out, and you're like, hey, I have the spike, I'm last alive, let's teleport to the other site, get spiked out, and then potentially win this 1v2, and that's the best case scenario for the most part for Omen ult. Not a super reliable source of value. While it still can be good in those situations, it's not like an objectively powerful ultimate, all things considered. Still, in the right hands, I think it can get a lot of value. Now, with Reckoning on Harbor, it's a decent ultimate, especially if you're trying to take space on site, right? You pop it, you force enemies to move, it gives you a slight advantage in the duels, but Harbor is an ultimate that is too easy a lot of the times to just wait out, back away, and it really just gets no real value. In fact, a lot of times people will just leave sites, save all their cooldowns, then retake with all their cooldowns. They didn't have to invest anything. You didn't get any guaranteed space as well, where players can kind of sit on site or maneuver to potentially be in a position that you don't expect. I think it's fine, but it's nowhere near as powerful as some of the other ultimates that have a similar effect. Next up, we do got to talk about Overdrive on Neon. There's a couple of ultimates that occupy this category, which are like ultimates that are eco weapons, or they are weapons outright, Jett and Chamber to name a few, and Neon is probably the weakest of the 3, and the reason that Neon is so low down is because this one requires you to constantly get value and picks to keep it going. It's like an all or nothing ult, where you're not going to be able to kill some people or pop it and then carry it into the later round. You have to basically just keep the momentum up, which does make you a bit predictable, although with good movement on Neon with her ultimate, it's cool because you could be very mobile and get a lot of kills that way. I think overall it's a fine ultimate that could be great on an eco, especially if you're combining it with some sort of initiated utility, specifically like a breach, stun, or some sort of flash, but overall I think that it's a little bit hit or miss. Now, next up, we do got to talk about Neural Theft on Cypher, an ultimate that is a lot better now that it gives you information twice, but information is not all there is, and outside of that, you're not necessarily going to be able to win an entire round off of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the information is great, and if you have people alive that can utilize the information, it can be great, but enemies know that they're being revealed as well, so a lot of times they're going to play in a way that they won't just instantly die to this, and typically the information is going to be exchanged for space on objectives, which is is good, but there's other ultimates that do that and more. But it's still a very powerful ultimate, especially in the right situation and when you have a coordinated team. Now, last but certainly not least, in the C tier, we have VIPER'S Pit. A very, very strong ultimate. Used to be a little bit more powerful before they nerfed it, but the real reason that VIPER'S Pit isn't higher is mainly because enemies can sometimes use the VIPER'S Pit to their own advantage. While it's amazing for the Viper herself, your team can't play around it very easily, and people can sneak into your VIPER'S Pit and use it and play around it to really sometimes get onto point, create certain plays that would otherwise be impossible. And sometimes this ultimate can backfire, so I think that it's strong, but of course it has to be set up in the right situation, and there are potential downsides to it, so I can't put it any higher than the top of C. Now, moving on to the B tier ultimates, these are ultimates that have some crazy value just automatically or can create some huge strategical set plays for your team when synergized correctly. Bottom of the list is Dimensional Drift on Yoru, an ultimate that not only gives you information, but when combined with some sort of initiation utility, can generate you kills as well. Oh, there's a player here, let's breach stun them, Yoru pops out and kills them. Yoru can combine it with his own flashes to make a proactive play, or you could just rotate to the different site and plant. I think that if you compare its versatility directly with From the Shadows, you see that Yoru's Dimensional Drift is just a higher tiered ultimate. Just more potential plays with it and higher average impact, so it's obvious that it deserves a B tier. Next off, we do have Showstopper on Raze. Now, if your name is Sub Rosa, this is probably an F tier ult, but for everyone else, this ultimate can be a fantastic way to either get an entry pick or to snowball a fight in your favor. Really, Raze oftentimes has a ton of momentum. Being able to get an extra grenade, being able to combine that with Showstopper, the idea is that if you get a couple kills, you start cooking on this character, all of a sudden, you can really snowball the enemy team and get a lot of multi-kills. The only real downside to this ultimate is, one, it's not always the most consistent with the hitbox, and two, you could technically just die when you pop it or trade, which happens a lot. But I do think that if you use it correctly, it can be a fantastic way to open up a fight and typically get you some free value. So I'm gonna put it in the B tier. Next off, we do gotta talk about Tour de Force from Chamber. This is a big step up from Neon's Overdrive. Being able to get a free operator is fantastic. You're saving so many credits, carrying it to multiple stages of the round. Chamber's ultimate is just really, really good. I think that this ultimate is automatically gonna be a bit worse than something like BLADESTORM because it's not as versatile. It can't be used to like entry on a site or anything like that. It's gonna be naturally a bit better on defense, of course, and how much value you get out of it is gonna be oftentimes dependent on you, unlike some of the higher tier ultimates that have like set plays that are kind of built in, guaranteed value more or less. So it's good, but not quite to the level of some of the higher tier ults. Now, we do gotta talk about the next one, which is Rolling Thunder. Breach's ult is a fantastic initiator tool for a team. It's great for clutching in a 1v1 or a 1v2, and really the only thing that's holding this ultimate back is just the fact that stunning is not always the most reliable, especially when you start to play up against higher ranked tier players that will just kill you. Like, they'll just kill you even if they're stunned. It's still very powerful, but not nearly the I win button that a lot of people perceive it to be. Next up, we do gotta talk about NIGHTFALL, Fade's ultimate. Really, really great. Similar to Breach's Rolling Thunder, but you trade the stun for information. There is a bit more guarantee of damage automatically, and I do think that for the most part, you're actually more likely to take space and win the fight with NIGHTFALL as opposed to Rolling Thunder. That information is the most important aspect of it because oftentimes people can like slip under with Rolling Thunder where you don't quite know where they are, so you have to clear all these angles. Where NIGHTFALL, you're gonna know exactly where they are, so it's gonna be kind of a cinch. I do think that these ultimates are kind of in the same tier. They still need team synergy and a team to work with it to push it together, but it's powerful when done correctly. Now, last off in the B tier, we have Astra's Cosmic Divide. Definitely an ultimate that is gonna be a bit more map centric because there's some maps that favor Cosmic Divide over others, but if you are a very quick player, you can very quickly assess what's going on in the fight. You can use Cosmic Divide to some crazy potential, and I think this is one of those ultimates that we haven't even seen the skill ceiling on it because it's a very unique ultimate that is super strong, but it's not quite completely cracked, and definitely an ultimate that can win you some rounds, especially if you whip out some creativity. Now we're moving along to the A tier, and these are ultimates that just have such a huge effect over everything. They have insanely high carry potential, pick potential, or they just change the entire strategy of the game. And at the bottom of A, we have Thrash on Gecko. The ability to potentially stun or lock down a player, get a kill, create that space, and then do it again in a post-plant situation is phenomenal. And I think that this ultimate is one of those that you need to really try to get both uses of Thrash, but most of the time you're going to be able to, because the first Thrash gets you that space, gets you that pick, and gets you that info. All in all, I do think that it's a fantastic ultimate, really, really strong. This ultimate might become even stronger as the meta progresses and Gekko gets more and more playtime. Next up, we do got to talk about Seekers for Skye. Really great information gathering ultimate, also fantastic at taking point. I think that what this does better than some of the ultimates like Nightfall is that it gets you information no matter where enemies are. We've all been there in ranked. We're in a situation where a whole bunch of people got traded out. We're kind of chilling on site with maybe 1 or 2 people. There's enemies, but you don't know if they flanked you, if they're just hiding behind something. You have no idea where they are. You have zero information. If you had a Nightfall ultimate on Fade, you wouldn't know where to throw it because you don't really know where the enemies are. This really allows you to regain your bearings, and I think that that's such an underrated aspect of this ultimate. It's super strong for taking site as well, in the same way that Rolling Thunder and Nightfall is, so it's more versatile. So all in all, I do think that this is one of the best ultimates in the game, and that's not even close. Now, next up, we do got to talk about Sage's Resurrect. Just pure, simple value, a fantastic ultimate to use if you're rotating. Put yourself in a 2v2 or a 2v1 to actually give you a huge advantage, help your economy. The Temple ultimate is fantastic if the enemy gets a pick. You can really just get all that utility back that was lost, and your strategy is just like reborn again. I think that it's just a really, really solid amount of value always. And while it's never going to do anything too flashy, I think the value is just there to actually justify it being an A tier. The next up, we do got to talk about Jett's BLADESTORM, the best of all of the free weapon type ultimates, mainly because it's good always, right? It's good on an eco, it's good on a buy, it's good to entry a site, it's good to retake a site. I mean, when is this not good? It allows you to trade so high up in eco. You can clutch up with this. You can just get a kill or 2 and give your teammates guns, and the fact it gets to be used throughout the entire round and resets on kill is just amazing. I mean, really, what's more to be said about this ultimate that has been clutching rounds since the beginning of Jett meta, way back towards the start of Valorant, when people finally realized that Jett was really, really strong. I think that this ultimate is definitely deserving of high up in the A tier. The last but certainly not least in the A tier is Run It Back Phoenix. A great initiation ultimate, can build an entire strategy around your team. At worst, gets you information and a free trade. At best, you can pop off on multiple kills because everyone knows you just shoot better when you're like not at the risk of death. I think most Phoenix players can agree with me. And while it's not the most flexible ultimate, I think it makes up for it in power level. Now we're moving on to the S tier ultimates, and these are mainly here either due to their power, flexibility, or strategy, and it's really just kind of the best of the best. First up, we have Orbital Strike, which might surprise a lot of you that Brimstone's ultimate is on here, but I want you to think back of how many rounds you've won or lost by an Orbital Strike post-plant. It's really, really strong. And in addition to that, this thing is just very easy to pull off, very reliable at doing what it needs to do, and it can also be used to take space, punish enemies' positions, and even some proactive strategies can be centered around this, like, oh, we're gonna Orbital Strike U-Haul, rush here. And I also really think that this ultimate doesn't have a high margin for error. Like, it's always gonna get a good amount of value no matter what, and for all these reasons, I gotta put it in the S tier. Might not be the flashiest, might not have the highest ceiling of impact, but it's always gonna have something, and it's always going to be very reliable. The next up in the S tier, for a lot of the same reasons we're putting Brimstone's Orbital Strike up here, is Hunter's Fury on Sova. This ultimate is fantastic for post-plant. We all know that, but there's extra versatility involved. The idea that you can stop a rush from another site, punish enemies for entering a site if you have any sort of information, or just the fact that they're coming in and your teammates on site, you can help them with the trades. In addition to that, this ultimate, when used properly to combine with your own utility, can get you proactive kills as well, especially if you get really good at predicting enemy players' movements. So the fact that it can get ISO kills, it can punish rushes and play really well in post-plant situations, it's just good in too many situations not to put in the S tier. And once again, not the highest power level, I don't think, but still a fantastic ultimate and definitely deserving. Now this next one's gonna be a little bit controversial, but we have Lockdown from Killjoy. And I know this thing is like made of paper mache, it dies to freaking everything. But if we think about an ultimate that drives a strategy, there's no better ultimate than Killjoy's Lockdown. The fact is, if the opponents don't have the things that can shut it down, you can take or retake an area and there's nothing the enemy team can do about it without throwing away all their inherent advantage. It just really puts the enemy team in a really uncomfortable rock and a hard place scenario where they don't get to play the game on their terms, and you get to steal that agency from them. I think it's one of the best ultimates. We see it often in pro play. We see it very reliably to take or clutch rounds in ranked play. It's just really good. But of course, on the Killjoy's point of view, you have to make sure that you're tracking the ultimates that could shut your thing down, and you also have to make sure that there's no utility that can shut it down as well, and mix up where you're placing it dependent on that. If you play around those things, this ultimate is undoubtedly an S tier ultimate. Now, the final ultimate and the best ultimate in the entire game of Valorant is Null CMD KO's ultimate. Now, this ultimate just kind of has it all. The fact that it allows KO to be traded and get resurrected. The fact that it turns off utility, so it gives you sight control really easily. The fact that it sets up designated strategies. It can break through enemy defenses. There's so many things to this ultimate that just make it amazing. Just really strong. Most of the time, if you just pop this ultimate and run it down somewhere on rank together, you're going to get sight control, you're going to get kills, and you're going to win the round. I think that naturally, as the game progresses, KO is just going to get stronger and stronger as a character, and this ultimate's going to get stronger and stronger as well. And the fact that this shuts off enemies from using ultimates can shut off certain types of ultimates like BLADESTORM and Raise the Showstopper, and can set up some truly unfair advantages for your entire team. It's undoubtedly the king of ultimates, the one that shuts all the other ones down, the one ult to rule them all. But anyways, if you really want to climb in Valorant, you got to check out the SkillCapped website right now for top quality movement, aim, and positioning guides that you won't find anywhere. And of course, the private Discord coaching has been helping people improve at a dramatic rate. So what are you waiting for? Check it out right now in the links down below.